So we're going to move on to Teresa. And Teresa, I know that you are an expert in the very complicated and ever-changing world of medical insurance, and specifically Medicare. So for starters, what steps would you recommend for people who are just becoming eligible for Medicare to make sure that they choose a plan that best serves their personal needs?
Wonderful, thank you so much. Before I answer that question, I really want to tell you a story about myself so that you can understand my history. So 20 years ago, I was recruiting. I'm an engineer. I have my master's in engineering. Went to school at Michigan Tech, and I worked for Caterpillar for many years, and I recruited for them for many years. And I was on a recruiting trip, and unfortunately, I was walking after a long day of recruiting and had dinner, and a drunk driver hit me while I was walking, and I flew 30 feet and landed on my knees. And I was 29 years old. I was in really good shape. I was a college athlete. I played every kind of sport you can imagine: rock climb, scuba dive. We rollerbladed with the baby stroller. Like, we did everything, right? And all of a sudden, I got up. Well, I didn't remember flying. It was only a few seconds, I don't remember, but when I started trying to get up, everybody's screaming. I didn't really know what happened. And they made me sit. The cop came, took me to the hospital, and because she hit me from behind, my muscles were tense. So I didn't break any bones. However, I did other damage, which I'll tell you in a second. So they took me to the hospital. I had a really severe concussion. You know, my legs were all bruised. So I had to get a ride back to Peoria, Illinois from Michigan Tech because I couldn't do the plane. And I'll fast forward 3.5 years. I went to 50 plus doctors because I couldn't walk down the block. I couldn't hold my kid. I couldn't give him a bath. I couldn't vacuum. Really what I did was I got dressed and I could walk to work and do my job, and I gave my job my life, and then I would come home and I was in so much pain and I couldn't take care of my family. You know what I mean? I was an athlete and I couldn't hold my child. And they told me, well, when I first got hit, they told me if you ever want to get pregnant again, you better get pregnant right now because I was internally bleeding. And thank God for Ashton. He's a blessing in our life. But I did get pregnant, but while he was growing up, there was a lot of things I couldn't do. And even with like my daughter playing softball or dancing, I love to dance. But they knew I could dance. Mommy could dance for about 30 seconds, and then I was done. Or like throwing a ball. I could throw or kick the ball for 30 seconds or so, and then I was done. And we would go on big trips. I get a wheelchair. I could walk for a little while, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but then I was done. And if we were going to Disney World or something, I didn't want to go back to the hotel and sit on the bed. I wanted to be with my family. So fast forward, I went to Mayo Clinic. We moved around because Caterpillar moved us every 3 to 5 years. And we were in Georgia, and I went to Mayo Clinic because these doctors kept saying, oh, it's in your head. Just take some Tylenol and go home. There's nothing wrong. You didn't break a bone. And they kind of figured out that I had damaged my nerves. So, like, even sitting here today, like, I felt lots of vibration. And those vibrations or, like, a loud noise or something triggers pain. And then also there was something going on with my hips. They really couldn't figure out what was wrong 20 years ago. So fast forward, about 7 years ago, I had moved to different jobs, forced myself to work. I was good at what I did, and I loved what I did. I held lots of executive positions for different companies. But Caterpillar reorganized, and they forced me into a job that was traveling. I was traveling 90% of the time. And I told them before they gave it to me, I was like, I'll do this, but I really can't. I really shouldn't. And 9 months later, all I could do seriously is I drove to the parking deck. I could walk to my desk. My friends would go up and get me water on the second floor, and I would walk home. And I was walking like this. I was hunched over. The doctor finally said, you need to take a leave of absence. And Mayo Clinic had been asking me to do this pain camp. It's like a 3.5-week camp, and it's not really for pain. It's really to figure out how to deal with, how to get active, how to change your thoughts, how to figure out what's really going on, because my sight was changing every day, my hearing would change every day, and that's all the nerves, right? And some of that stuff, I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, what is going on? But doctors still didn't know. So I did go to that pain camp because I wasn't gonna live like I was living. It wasn't gonna happen. I wasn't gonna do it. And you were talking, Jenna, it's a cycle. So I've been in the cycle a few times, but if you're in so much pain and you don't move, then you don't sleep, then you sit more, and it's a cycle, and it's mentally exhausting, and your closest people don't want to be around you. And not to say they love you, but you become negative because you just don't know how to handle what you've been given. And so I went to the camp, and it was refreshing to hear that everybody except for 3 of us out of 40 people were on disability. 3 of us were not on disability. But I work with people on disability every day, but in my mind, I knew I could do it. I mean, I know I could do it. So, a couple years ago, 5, 6 years ago, I moved back up here, and I was working for a manufacturing company. And I was walking a lot. It was very high stress. I was a director of a 3,000 person company, and it was in 10 states. And so I was traveling, doing all that stuff that you're supposed to do when you're in that position. And I decided, I could do that for 5 more years and go on disability because the stress alone was making me worse. Or I could quit and do something else with my life that I could keep doing. And that's when I found, and my friends had been doing this for a while, so I tried this, and I love it. I'm able to relate to so many people. I'm able to help them in so many ways because even though we have different symptoms or issues with our body, a lot of it's mental. It's physical, by all means, it's physical. But the hard part is getting over the mental part. Getting over the new normal, because it's a new normal. What you could do 20, 40 years ago, you can't do anymore. However, there's things you can do, and you got to figure out, embrace that new normal, and figure out how to have and love your life, but with this new normal. So that's just a quick little bit about me. I mean, I just had hip surgery 2.5 weeks ago because for 18 years, they didn't know what was wrong with my hips. And come to find out, everything was shredded in my hips, like all the tendons and labrum and all that. But I had kept so active, I held my hips together, with my muscles because I would not give up. I was not giving up my life. And so, thank God, I found a doctor in Grand Rapids that figured it out, and it's taken twice, but I think this worked. And then we can do the other one. But as far as Medicare goes, back to the question, it's really great insurance, especially if you've been in corporate insurance. It's wonderful. You have a 7-month window where you can pick what you want to do, and there's actually 2 different types of Medicare insurance. It's not the companies. Forget the companies. I cover every company in the state, but there's Advantage plans and there's a Medigap plan. And the first thing I do is explain that difference, because if someone has ever had cancer, stroke, heart attack, any life insurance questions, the only time you'll get approved, probably, for that Medigap plan is when you first turn 65, because they are guaranteed to accept you. If you're healthy, you can go to that Medicare Advantage plan and then hop back over to a Medigap plan if you want. But that first 7 months when you first turn 65 is so critical to figure out what direction you want to go. So hopefully that helps.
And it is very, very complicated. So not only getting on the right plan in the first place, but then continually revisiting your plan to make sure that as your needs change, that you're on the right plan as well. So it's an unfortunate reality that seniors on fixed incomes often have to make a lot of medical decisions based on what they can afford and not necessarily on the best medication or treatment option. So what is your best advice for seniors in this category and how they can still have get the best medication and treatment that will truly help them?
That's a great question. So first, I actually meet a lot of seniors who are on Medicare and just a prescription drug plan. Just know if you just have Medicare and not some kind of supplement or advantage plan, you pay 20%, Medicare pays 80%, and there's no maximum out of pocket. So if something crazy happens and you have cancer or you're in the hospital for a couple weeks, you owe 20% of that full bill. There's no max. So that's why it's so critical to have something in addition to your Medicare, so there's a maximum. Otherwise, if something happens, all your savings is gonna go into some kind of medical bill, and it doesn't have to at all. And I was so relieved when I really learned this system, because I was scared. My bills have been $500,000 over the last 20 years, and how was I ever gonna take care of that? That scared the crap out of me. But it doesn't have to, because if you're protecting yourself, that won't happen. As far as the prescriptions, really look at generics. A lot of times, I know you guys most know about the donut hole and the coverage gap. Mainly, I'll just quickly explain, if you're roughly between 40, if your cost of your drug, not what you're paying, but if the cost of your drug goes to $4,500, you're gonna end up from 45 to roughly 7,500, you're gonna pay 25% of the cost of your drug. And then after 7,500, the Medicare changes that number a little bit every year, but after 7,500, it goes way down. But most people don't have to be there. Eliquis, some of these really expensive drugs that you're on, some of them don't have alternatives because they're new and they've been out there, but a lot of them do. And a lot of times, unfortunately, the doctors can't keep up with what's your level. If something's generic, if a certain drug or a certain company covers it better than another, they just can't. And so you have to be your own advocate. You need to have somebody in your corner like me, so that we can look up your drugs every year. Make sure that you're still on the best plan to reduce your overall costs. Do a mail order. I know some people don't like mail orders, but most companies now, if you do a 3-month supply for your mail order, generics are all zero. So that can right there reduce your costs. If you have to take a very expensive drug, your doctor can submit a tier exception. So let's say it's a brand drug that's a tier 4. Generics are 1 and 2, tier 1 and 2. A brand drug is 3 through 5. So let's say it's a really expensive brand drug. The doctor can submit a tier exception or a formulary exception. You don't have to remember this, but your doctor can submit some paperwork to the health insurance company to try to get it reduced to a different tier, so then it's less money. 2 other things. If you are on a fixed income and you really don't have much cash assets, less than $2,000, it's a 5-minute application for me to apply for extra help through Social Security. It's not Medicare, it's not your health insurance, it's totally separate, it's through Social Security, and it drastically reduces your costs. The most expensive brand drug for a 90-day supply was about $10.40 versus hundreds of dollars a month you could be paying. And then the last one is if all else fails, like I have a lady on MS right now, and they want her to take, she just emailed me a drug that's $200,000 a month. My goodness. But it really was. But in all these advertisements, most of those drugs are not approved by Medicare yet. So they advertise all this stuff on TV, but a lot of times, you go and try to get it, and then it's not covered. But go to the manufacturer. Every manufacturer has, even if you have money in the bank or whatever, if it's a really expensive drug, they have programs to help, and most people don't even try. So all they can say is no.
Yeah, I went to pick up a prescription earlier this week, and they're like, well, insurance isn't covering this. I said, well, I can probably pay it out of pocket, $1,000. I'm like, no, I won't be getting that. So yeah, it's crazy that we have to make decisions based on those things. So we've talked a lot today about the concept of staying healthy. So what are some of the things that insurance companies are doing to help people proactively stay healthy? And how can people tell if these things are already included in our insurance plan? Because I don't know about you guys, but I do not spend a lot of time reading any of the fine print on virtually anything in my life, and I know from Teresa, there are things that these companies offer that we may not even know are offered.
Well, it's a great question. It's hard to know. There's over 12 just Medicare Advantage companies in the state of Michigan. And like, for example, Priority Health has about 15 to 20 plans of their own, Medicare Advantage plans. And Blue Cross has about 12. So there's hundreds of Medicare Advantage plans out there, really. The best option is to meet with somebody every year. Your needs change. So maybe this year you need dentures, but next year you're gonna have a surgery and you need PT. So this year we need to get a plan that has more dental coverage. Next year we need something that has better PT coverage. I mean, you don't have to stay on a plan. If a plan, if you're paying for a Medicare Advantage plan, if it's not a $0 premium, you probably haven't reviewed your plan in several years. You really shouldn't be on anything but a $0 premium Medicare Advantage plan anymore, because every single company has many. The competition has allowed us to have better benefits, which is phenomenal for us. But some of the benefits, Brain HQ, all the companies now have apps to help you play games or memory things, just things to trigger your memory to keep you active. They all have gym membership for free. I know Priority Health and United Healthcare allow you to go to MVP. All of them allow you to go to the Croc Center, Planet Fitness. You guys, they have water aerobics, they have a therapy pool that I go in. It makes a huge difference. You don't have to do water therapy with a teacher if you don't want, but once you've gone to therapy, they can give you the exercises to use, those foam dumbbells. I mean, I do it now, like I have to, because physically sometimes I can't lift like my mind wants to lift. I mean, I threw javelin and hammer and shot in college. So I knew, I was like lifting. I could lift, but my body can't do that anymore, and sometimes my mind wants to. But that water therapy is huge, especially in the beginning, to get your strength up so then you can progress to more advanced things. Over-the-counter allowances. Almost all the plans have over-the-counter allowances. Each company has so much money, so some have like less over-the-counter, but they might have transportation. A lot of them have companion care now, where someone can come clean your home, they can take you to the grocery store, they can mow the lawn. If you can do it, of course it's good, but like for me, I have a housekeeper now, because I know cleaning my bathroom, scrubbing my kitchen, and scrubbing my floors is not worth the pain. I'd rather save that energy and go for a walk with my family or something other than scrubbing my toilet or my tub, and so I pay somebody to do that. You guys can have that all done for free. It's called companion care. Most companies have PAPA. It's through Medicare Advantage plans. The advertisements that you see on TV, I just want to warn you, because my goodness, I get people that get trapped all the time, or those calls. They say, oh yeah, everything's zero, you get food allowances, pest control, utility bills. It's for folks that have full Medicaid. As a single person, you have to make less than $1,200 a month with only $2,000 in cash assets. And as a married couple, you have to have make less than $1,500 with $2,000 in cash assets. So most of the population is not going to qualify for those plans, but they advertise and they get you to call, and then they have your information. And a lot of times, like last month, 5 people got switched from those stupid phone calls because they got their information and switched them, didn't look up their doctors, didn't look up their prescriptions. So today I'm going to see one of my customers who have been with me for years because she can't go to her PT anymore, she can't go to her chiropractor, and her primary care is not covered. And if we don't do something this month, she has to wait till January to go see her doctors again. So don't talk to those folks. They all have to have cleanings and x-rays for $0. All the Medicare Advantage plans have to have that. Medicare changed the rules a couple years ago. They all have vision for free, unless you have to have more than one eye appointment a year for diabetics. Then that second appointment, sometimes you'll have to pay a specialist copay, but they all have an eyeglass allowance. Most of them are $100. Hearing, some plans are better than others, so like I have a customer who needs hearing aids, we're gonna switch their plan to a plan that covers 75% of their hearing aids next year, and then once they get their hearing aids, we can do something different if their life changes. So these plans have so many benefits now for Medicare Advantage plans. Now Medigap plans do have discounts, and a lot of them at a gym, because the activity is so vital to your health. They know that if they can keep you active, you're going to have less health problems. So a lot of the plans now, even Medigap plans, have gym membership for free.
So you talked about some of those things like light duty housekeeping, which is just, to me, wonderful benefits that I think a lot of seniors don't really know that it might already be on their plan. But let's talk just a little bit more about that concept of how people can stay safe and not get switched from a plan without their knowledge, because I think that it is so important to have one person in their corner who they can call at any time to ask a healthcare question of, and who is truly looking for doing that pre-planning for what they have coming up and getting them to the right plan. But I know that people do get switched without their knowledge.
All the time. Before COVID, these call centers all over the country were really not existent. I mean, I even get Medicare calls like 15 times a day. It's just crazy. Put the person that you trust in your phone, and if the name comes up, answer the phone. If you don't recognize that number, let it go to voicemail. These people will not leave a voicemail. So if they leave a voicemail, you can just call them right back. And a lot of times, my customers will do that because they didn't have my number in the phone, and they call me right back once I leave a message. But truly, if they ever ask for your personal information, just hang them. If they say, "Hi, is this Jeff?" and you say yes, they have to record the calls now. You just said yes. They can record that yes, and you're giving them permission. What are you giving them permission for? You didn't answer a question, but you said yes, and they're recording the calls. Now, Medicare's trying to crack down on that, and the whole application, if it's over the phone, has to be recorded. But once they have your information, it's very hard to trace back that you didn't truly give them permission to change your plan. And so just don't answer those calls. Don't call the 1-800 numbers or the junk mail you get. Call somebody you trust and say, "Hey, I have questions." I get probably 15 to 20 calls a day from my customers asking me various questions. How do I do this? Who do I go for this? What's the number for this? I am happy. I'm so glad they called me instead of one of those 1-800 numbers and got along with.
Yep, and something I revisit constantly in this series is that idea of having resources for all these different things that you might need before you necessarily are in a crisis. So that idea of, having a physical therapist, knowing AARP, being familiar with senior living options through Tom or visiting Samaritas, things like that, before it comes to a point where all of a sudden you need something desperately and you don't have time any longer to do that research. So here are your opportunities to visit all these people and ask all the questions that you want.